Dear audience, Assalamu alaikum. How are you? I think you are fine. I am also fine. Welcome to online school. To learn English grammar, we have to know about parts of speech, phrases, clauses, singular and plural, tenses, degrees of comparison, simple, complex and compound, active voice and passive voice, article, preposition, etc. So for part of speech, we have to know about noun, pronoun, adjective, verb, adverb, preposition, conjunction, and interjection. In this class, let us discuss about verb. So what is verb? A verb is a word which denotes the action of a noun or asserts something about the noun or reveals events pertaining to the noun. Verbs are the action word in a sentence that describe what the subject is doing. Along with nouns, verbs are the main part of a sentence or phrases, telling a story about what is taking place. In fact, without a verb, full thought cannot be properly converted, and even the simplest sentences, such Maria sings, have on. Actually, a verb can be a sentence by itself with the subject. In most cases, you implied such as sing and drive. The example number 1, the student reads. Number 2, the dog barks. The underlined words denote the action of the noun in each sentence. Example number 3, the student is brilliant. Number 4, the dog is a pet animal. The underlined words in each sentence reveal something about the verb. Example number 5, the student is appreciated. Number 6, the dog is driven away. In these sentences, the verb reveals what is done to the noun. Example number 7, he drives a car. Number 8, he is driving a car. In the sentence number 7, drives is a verb. In the last sentence, is acts as an additional verb. When a verb is added with one or more verbs, that is known as compound verb. The underlined verbs are showing now in the sentence are known as compound verbs. Example are many houses and hearts were destroyed due to tsunami. Number 2, I will call you tomorrow. Number 3, I am looking for you since morning. Let's discuss list of verb. First, action verb. Action verb express specific and used any time you want to show action or discuss something, doing something. It's important to remember that the action does not have to be physical. Example of action verb: number 1, run, dance, slide, jump, think, do, go, stand, etc. Now let's discuss auxiliary verb. Auxiliary verb is a verb which is added to other verbs in order to express different tensions, negative meanings, questions, and also to reveal the passive form of a sentence. Auxiliary verbs are also known as helping verbs and are used together with a main verb. to show the verb's tense or to form a question or negative. Common examples of auxiliary verbs include have, might, will. These auxiliary verbs give some context to the main verb. The auxiliary verb examples in the sentences: I will go home after football practice. Here, the auxiliary verb will is telling us that the action of the main verb go is going to take a place in the future after football practice has ended. If the auxiliary verb will was removed, we will get the sentences I go home after football practice. In this case, there is no definite time frame for the action. The sentence suggests that going home after football practice is just something the subject I generally does. There are two kinds of auxiliary verb. Number one, primary auxiliary verb. Number two, modal auxiliary verb. The primary auxiliary verbs, these auxiliary verbs are used to reveal questions, negatives, and tenses. Examples are: have I not helped you? I am not at all concerned with this case. I have obtained 100% in the final examination. Modal auxiliary verb. The auxiliary verbs which are used to express different attitude of the mind are called modal auxiliary verb. So modal verbs are auxiliary verbs that are used to express ability, possibilities, and obligations. Examples are can, must, may, should, would, etc. In the example sentence number 1, I will help you by all means. Number 2, you must take care of your health. Number 3, you ought to have completed this work lasted by yesterday. Number 4, how dare he argued with the chief executive officer. Number 5, we must complete the construction work within 15 days. Number 6, they have not published the result in time. The modal auxiliary verb example: he can shoot a 3-point shoot easily. The auxiliary verb can is expressing an ability, suggesting that shooting a 3-point shoot is a skill the subject possesses. Now, transitive verb. Transitive verb is a verb which passes over the actions of the noun, that is subject, in the sentence to an object in the same sentence. Example, he eats an apple. Here he is the subject, eats is the verb, apple is the object. The verb eats passes over the action of he to the object apple. So we can say transitive verbs are action verbs that always expresses double activities that relate or affect someone or something else. These other things are generally direct objects, nouns or pronouns that are affected by the verb, though some verb can also take an indirect object such as show, take, and make. In a sentence with a transitive verb, someone or something receives the action of the verb. Example of transitive verbs are love, respect, tolerate, believe, maintain, etc. Some examples of transitive verbs are in sentence like I read a book. The teacher teaches history. The boy throws a ball. Here the transitive verbs examples in the sentences are underlined. Now intransitive verb. Intransitive verb is a verb which does not pass over the actions of the noun, that is subject, to an object. However, the verb expresses an action or a state of being. So we can say intransitive verbs are action verbs that always expresses double activities. They are different from transitive verbs because there is no direct object following an intransitive verb. The example of intransitive verbs in a sentence are: number 1, the intercity express arrived late. Number 2, the child weeps. Number 3, the dog barks loudly. Number 4, my father sleeps. Number 5, though we had planned to stay for a night in our village, we leave today. The examples of intransitive verb are underlined for easy identification. Now, phrasal verb. What are phrasal verbs? A phrasal verb is a combination of words, that is, a verb and a preposition, or a verb and adverb, that when used together usually take on a different meaning to that of the original verb. The example of phrasal verb: run out, go all out, make out, hand out, bring out, face up, think through, etc. When we use phrasal verbs, we use them like normal verbs in a sentence, regardless if it's a regular or irregular verb. The example of phrasal verbs in this sentence are: number 1, Ella tore up the letter after she read it. Number 2, their car broke down 2 miles out of town. Number 3, did the manager deal with that customer's complaint? The phrasal verbs are bolded in the sentence for easy identification. Now, irregular verb. Irregular verbs are those that don't take on the regular spelling patterns of past simple and past participle verb. Unfortunately, there are hundreds of irregular verbs in the English language. But don't worry, while many are used often, the majority are not in common uses, or if they are, you will use them so often you will learn them quickly. Some of the most common irregular verbs include say, make, go, take, come, know, and see. Example of irregular verbs: eat, think, bring, hold, bear, buy, lay, cash, drive, paid, etc. Remember, irregular verbs are also known as strong verbs. The irregular verb examples in the following sentences are in bold for easy identification. First, I take my time when I go to the shops. Present tense. I took my time when I went to the shops. Past tense. Julie makes cake for the classroom. Present tense. Julie made cake for the classroom. Past tense. In the example, I want to build a sand castle like the one we built last year. Here the irregular verb build is in the base form. The irregular verb build is the first simple form of build. When you look at the list of examples, you will notice that build is also past participle of the irregular verb build. Another example, I awoke to find that a spider had bitten me. Although the wound didn't bleed, it itched terribly. In this example, the irregular verb awoke is the past simple form of awoke. Bitten is the past participle form of bite, and bleed is the base form. You should also remember that auxiliary verb do and have are also irregular verb. Examples are I do agree. He does it often. We have done our homework early. They do their homework on Friday. At last, let us discuss how to recognize a verb. As you can see from the examples, one clue to help you recognize a verb is its location compared to the subject. Verbs almost always come after a noun or pronoun. These nouns and pronouns are referred to as the subject.